Welcome to the San Wisdom Protocol. Today we are going to dive into the world of power with an explanation of the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Our goal is to understand these deep rules in a way that is simple, interesting, and easy for everyone to grasp. We are keeping this educational, but without the heavy or boring lectures. We will explain each rule one by one so you can see exactly how it works in the real world. So sit back, listen calmly, and let us know in the comments if we should continue this series. Also tell us which other books you want us to explain next for you. Now let's move to our topic. Law 1. Never outshine the master. In the complex game of power, the most dangerous mistake you can make is appearing too perfect in front of your superiors. This law is not about being weak, it is about being strategically invisible to protect your future. When you show off your brilliance or your superior talents in front of those above you, it does not inspire them, it scares them. Human nature is rooted in insecurity, and bosses are the most insecure people of all because they have the most to lose. If you outshine your master, you are unintentionally highlighting their flaws and making them feel replaceable. Think of the sun and the stars, where the stars only appear when the sun is gone because they cannot compete with its light. In history, many brilliant advisors were executed or sidelined simply because they made their kings look foolish in public. The master must always feel like the sun, the center of the universe around which everything else revolves. If you want to rise to the top, you must make those above you appear more intelligent and more powerful than they actually are. Ask for their advice even if you don't need it, and let them take credit for your best ideas to make them feel secure. When a master feels secure, they will give you more space to grow, and eventually you will find the strength to surpass them. But if you trigger their fear of being outdated or incompetent, they will crush you before you even get a chance to start. In modern offices, this happens every day when an ambitious employee tries to correct their manager in a meeting. Even if the employee is right, the manager will never forget the humiliation and will find a way to stop their promotion. Power is about patience and knowing when to hide your light so that it can burn brighter when the time is right. Never let your ego win the battle while you are still trying to win the war of influence. Discretion is the ultimate tool of the wise because it allows you to observe everything while being suspected of nothing. Let the master believe they are leading the way while you are the one quietly holding the map. This is the first step in the San Wisdom Protocol, because without survival, there can be no power. The goal is to be the shadow that supports the throne until the day you are ready to sit on it. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. The greatest betrayal in life rarely comes from a stranger, but from the person you call a friend. Friendship is built on shared emotions and vulnerability, which makes it a very unstable foundation for power. When you hire a friend or give them a position of influence, you are accidentally inviting resentment and envy into your circle. A friend knows your weaknesses, and they often feel they deserve more than you are giving them because of your history together. The dynamic of power changes the nature of friendship. And before you know it, the person you trusted becomes the person who stabs you in the back. On the other hand, a former enemy is like a lion that has been tamed because they have everything to prove to you. An enemy expects nothing from you, so when you show them mercy or give them a chance, they will be more loyal than 1,000 friends. In the game of power, you must keep your friends for social comfort, but look to your enemies for professional strength. Many great leaders in history were destroyed by their inner circle because they were too blinded by affection to see the growing jealousy. A friend often hides their true feelings behind a smile, while an enemy's intentions are clear and predictable. When you know where the attack is coming from, you can defend yourself, but a strike from a friend leaves you completely defenseless. If you have no enemies, you must find a way to create them because they serve as a constant reminder to stay sharp and alert. Conflict is a tool that keeps you moving forward, while comfort is a trap that makes you slow and weak. The wise person understands that a friend is a liability in a crisis, while a reformed enemy is a weapon of immense value. Never let your heart dictate your alliances because power does not recognize the language of love or loyalty. It only understands the language of interest and mutual benefit where everyone is playing a role for their own gain. If you want to stay safe in this world, you must be wary of those who claim to love you and respect those who openly oppose you. By using your enemies, you gain a reputation for strength and strategic brilliance that scares away smaller predators. This is a cold truth of the San Wisdom Protocol, but ignoring it will cost you everything you have worked to build. Learn to keep your friends close for the sake of appearances, but keep your enemies closer to ensure your survival. Law 3. Conceal your intentions. If you want to maintain control over any situation, you must never let people know what you are really thinking. Most people are open books because they find it easy to talk about their plans and desires, but this makes them incredibly vulnerable. When you reveal your intentions, you give others the opportunity to build a defense or plan a counterattack before you even move. The goal of a power player is to keep people in a state of constant confusion and uncertainty so they can never predict your next step. You must master the art of the smokescreen by talking about goals that are not your real goals and showing emotions that you do not truly feel. By appearing to be interested in one thing, you can quietly work on another without anyone noticing your progress. People are naturally drawn to appearances, so if you give them something to look at, they will never think to look at what you are actually doing. In the world of negotiation, the person who shows their cards first is always the one who loses the most. You must use honesty as a tactical tool where you tell the truth about small things to gain trust so you can lie about the big things. When your true motives are hidden, you become like a ghost that can walk through walls without being detected by your enemies. Silence and misdirection are your greatest allies because they force your opponents to waste their energy guessing your mind. By the time they realize what your true plan was, it should be far too late for them to do anything about it. This law requires absolute self-control because the urge to brag about your future success is a very human but very dangerous weakness. A person who cannot keep a secret can never hold power because their plans will always be at the mercy of others. You must be like a deep ocean where the surface looks calm and predictable, but the real movement is happening in the dark depths. If you are always honest and straightforward, people will find you boring and easy to manipulate because they know exactly how to trigger you. But if you are a mystery, they will treat you with respect and caution because they fear the unknown potential you carry. Keep your tongue in check and your eyes on the long-term objective while the rest of the world is distracted by your illusions. Concealing your intentions is not just about lying, it is about protecting the seeds of your success until they are strong enough to survive. Law 4. Always say less than necessary. In the world of power, silence is not just a lack of words, it is a weapon of psychological dominance. The more you speak, the more ordinary you appear, and the more likely you are to say something foolish that you cannot take back. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying very little, leaving others to fill the silence with their own insecurities and nervous chatter. When you are silent, you force the other person to talk, and as they talk, they reveal their true motives, their fears, and their weaknesses. Human beings are machines of interpretation, and when you give them nothing to interpret, they become obsessed with figuring you out. By saying less than necessary, you create an aura of mystery that makes every word you eventually speak carry the weight of an oracle. A short, vague answer is often much more powerful than a long, detailed explanation because it leaves the listener in a state of uncertainty. In any negotiation, the person who speaks the least usually holds the most power because they are the ones absorbing information while giving nothing away. Even if you are saying something mundane, making it short and mysterious will make it seem profound and original to the listener. Think of the greatest leaders in history. They rarely argued or explained themselves because they knew that explanations are for the weak. When you talk too much, you are essentially begging for validation, trying to convince the world of your importance. But silence suggests that you already know your value and that you do not need anyone's approval or understanding. The urge to fill a quiet room is a sign of internal anxiety, and those who can sit in silence are always perceived as more composed and dangerous. Be careful, because once a word leaves your lips, it belongs to the world and can be used against you in ways you never imagined. A slip of the tongue can destroy a reputation that took years to build, so the safest path is to keep your thoughts to yourself. If you must speak, let your words be like a controlled burn, precise, effective, and leaving no extra fuel for your enemies to use. Masters of power know that the less they say, the more control they have over the narrative that others build around them. You cannot be misquoted if you do not speak, and you cannot be predicted if your opinions are kept behind a wall of silence. Make it a habit to listen twice as much as you talk, and you will find that people begin to fear and respect your presence. In the end, the person who controls the silence is the person who controls the room. Law 5. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation is the cornerstone of power because it allows you to win battles before they even begin. It is the invisible shield that protects you from the attacks of your enemies and the magnifying glass that makes your successes look larger than life. A strong reputation can create an aura of greatness that intimidates your opponents and keeps them in a state of hesitation. But if your reputation is even slightly damaged, you become vulnerable to attacks from all sides, and people will begin to question your every move. You must work tirelessly to establish a reputation for a single outstanding quality, whether it is efficiency, honesty, or even ruthlessness. Once this foundation is built, it works for you even when you are sleeping, shaping the way people think and act in your presence. In the early stages of your career, you must guard your name with extreme caution and never let a single rumor go unchallenged. One small mistake or a moment of weakness can stain your image forever, and in the world of power, perception is the only reality that matters. If you have a reputation for being unpredictable, people will fear to cross you. If you are known for being generous, they will seek your favor. You must also learn how to destroy the reputations of your enemies by highlighting their flaws in a way that makes you look objective and fair. By casting doubt on the character of your opponent, you weaken their position without ever having to engage in a direct physical or legal fight. Always remember that a reputation is easier to destroy than it is to build, so you must be vigilant against the envy of others. People will always try to pull down those who stand higher than them, and they will use gossip and lies to chip away at your stature. Do not ignore these small attacks, because like a small leak in a dam, they can eventually lead to a total collapse of your power. You should always be the one controlling your narrative, ensuring that the world sees exactly what you want it to see. A person with no reputation is invisible, but a person with a bad reputation is a target for everyone looking to rise. Make your name a brand that stands for something unshakable, and you will find that doors open for you without any effort. In any social or professional circle, your reputation is the currency you trade with, and once you go bankrupt, you are finished. Be strategic about how you present yourself, and never leave your image to chance or to the mercy of others. The wise man knows that his name is his most valuable asset, and he will defend it with the same intensity as he defends his life. Law 6. Court attention at all cost. Everything in this world is judged by its appearance, and what is invisible or hidden counts for nothing. If you want to hold power, you must never allow yourself to be lost in the crowd or buried in the shadows of others. You must be a magnet for attention, standing out from the dull and the ordinary by being more colorful, more mysterious, or even more controversial than everyone else. In the game of influence, it is better to be slandered and attacked than to be ignored, because notoriety is a form of power that forces people to look at you. The crowd is always drawn to the spectacular and the theatrical, so you must learn to stage your life in a way that commands their gaze. If you are at the start of your journey and have little power, you must attach your name to a quality, a sensation, or an event that sets you apart from the masses. Create an air of mystery around yourself, making people wonder about your next move and keeping them obsessed with your personality. Mystery is a powerful tool because it forces others to use their imagination, and people always imagine things to be larger and more important than they really are. Do not be afraid of a little scandal as long as it makes you the center of conversation, because silence is the death of influence. Even negative attention can be turned to your advantage if you know how to play the role of the misunderstood genius or the bold rebel. The moment the spotlight leaves you, your power begins to fade, so you must constantly reinvent your image to keep the world interested. Think of yourself as a performer on a stage where the audience has a very short attention span. You must keep providing them with surprises. Vary your methods and your presence so that you never become predictable or boring, because boredom is the ultimate enemy of charisma. Those who are too modest or too shy to seek attention will find themselves working for those who are bold enough to demand it. You do not need to be the most talented person in the room to be the most powerful, as long as you are the one everyone is talking about. Being noticed is the first step toward being respected or feared, and without that initial spark of attention, your ideas will never take flight. Control the narrative by creating public spectacles that capture the hearts and minds of the people, making them feel like they are part of something grand. In every situation, find a way to distinguish yourself, whether it is through your clothing, your speech, or your calculated silences. Remember that in the eyes of the public, the person who is most visible is the person who is most important. Never let yourself become a background character in your own life. Always play the lead role and make sure the lighting is focused on you. Law 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. In the pursuit of power, your time and energy are your most limited resources, and wasting them on tasks that others can do is a strategic failure. The world is full of people who are talented, hard-working, and desperate for recognition. Your job is to harness their effort to build your own monument. By using the knowledge and legwork of others, you appear to have a divine efficiency and a wisdom that far surpasses the average human being. Your helpers will be forgotten, but your name will be etched into the final product, making you seem like a giant who can accomplish the impossible. Never do yourself what others can do for you, because the world does not reward the worker. It rewards the master who directs the work. Think of the great explorers or scientists of history. They often relied on a team of nameless assistants who did the actual labor while the leader took the glory. Taking the credit is not just about ego. It is about establishing a reputation for brilliance and keeping your hands clean from the exhaustion of detail. If you insist on doing everything yourself, you will burn out and lose sight of the grand strategy that leads to ultimate victory. You must be like a conductor who doesn't play a single instrument, but creates the entire symphony through the skills of others. When you take credit for the work of a group, you centralize power in yourself, making you the indispensable face of the project. This law also protects you because if the project fails, you can often shift the blame onto the subordinates who did the actual work. However, when it succeeds, you must be the first to step into the spotlight and accept the applause as if the idea and execution were yours alone. People are attracted to those who seem to possess effortless power, and nothing looks more effortless than achieving great things through the hands of others. Be careful not to be too obvious about your theft of credit. Do it with a touch of grace and authority so that others feel honored to have served you. The workhorse is eventually sent to the stable, but the rider is the one who wins the race and collects the trophy. Efficiency is the hallmark of a master, and there is no greater efficiency than using the brains and muscles of 100 people to serve one mind. Learn to scout for talent, and then figure out how to attach their best work to your own name before they realize their own value. In every organization, there are those who do the work and those who get the credit. Make sure you are always in the second category. By saving your energy, you remain fresh for the big decisions and the long-term battles that truly define a leader's legacy. Let others toil in the shadows while you bask in the sun, for that is the true nature of the hierarchy of power. Law 8. Make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary. In the game of strategy, the person who moves first to attack the other is often the one who loses their balance and their energy. When you force others to come to you, you are the one in control of the situation and the environment where the interaction takes place. It is always better to make your opponent come to your territory because it forces them to abandon their own plans and act on your terms. Most people are driven by their emotions and their greed. and you can use these weaknesses as bait to lure them into your trap. By dangling a tempting opportunity or a piece of information in front of them, you make them lose their focus and rush toward you without thinking. Once they are on your ground, they are vulnerable because they have spent their energy traveling and preparing for a confrontation that you have already designed. Power is about staying calm and centralized while the rest of the world wears itself out trying to reach you. If you are the one constantly chasing others, you are signaling that you are the weaker party who needs something from them. But when you stay still and wait for them to seek you out, you establish yourself as the prize and the authority. Think of a predator that waits in the shadows for the prey to walk into its reach rather than wasting energy on a long and uncertain chase. You must master the art of being the host of every situation, ensuring that others are the ones who have to adapt to your rules and your timing. This creates a psychological advantage where the other person feels a subtle pressure to please you or to win your favor. Even in negotiations, the person who travels to the other's office has already surrendered a small portion of their power before the meeting even starts. Use the promise of gain to pull people toward you, and once they are there, you can dictate the outcome with total confidence. The wise man knows that the greatest strength lies in being the destination, not the traveler, and he uses his resources to build a world that everyone else feels compelled to enter. Never forget that the person who can wait the longest is usually the one who wins the most, especially when they have made the other person move out of desperation. By making people come to you, you preserve your resources and your dignity while forcing your enemies to reveal their hands too early. Control is not about being busy, it is about being the center of gravity that pulls everything else toward itself. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. Any momentary victory you think you have gained through argument is actually a Pyrrhic victory. The resentment and ill will you stir up in your opponent is stronger and lasts much longer than any fleeting change of opinion. It is much more powerful to get others to agree with you through your actions without saying a single word. When you demonstrate your point, you provide proof that cannot be argued against, leaving no room for misinterpretation or defense. Arguments are messy and emotional, and even if you win, you often lose the respect of those watching the debate. A master of power understands that people are naturally defensive about their beliefs and will fight to protect their ego even if they are wrong. Instead of wasting your breath trying to convince them, show them the reality of your success or the efficiency of your method. Let the results of your work speak for you, because actions carry a weight that words can never achieve. In the history of great creators, those who argued about their vision were often ignored, while those who simply built their vision were eventually worshipped. If you find yourself in a position where you have to explain or defend your actions, you have already lost a measure of your authority. The world is full of talkers who try to convince everyone of their brilliance, but the person who acts in silence is the one who truly changes the environment. By demonstrating your ideas, you bypass the psychological barriers of your opponents and force them to witness the truth with their own eyes. This creates a deep sense of respect and fear because it shows that you do not need the approval of others to be right. Arguments are for the weak and the insecure who feel they must prove their intelligence at every opportunity. The powerful person stays quiet, acts decisively, and lets the world adjust to the new reality they have created. If someone disagrees with you, do not engage in a battle of words. Instead, find a way to make your success undeniable. Symbols and demonstrations are the language of power because they leave an impression on the mind that logic can never touch. Winning through action allows you to maintain your dignity and keep your plans hidden until they are fully realized. Save your energy for the execution of your plans rather than the defense of your opinions. In the long run, people will forget what you said, but they will never forget what you achieved through your relentless actions. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. You can die from someone else's misery as surely as you can from a physical virus. Human states are as infectious as diseases, and the people you choose to associate with will inevitably shape your own destiny. Some people are chronically unhappy and unlucky, and they carry a cloud of negativity and chaos wherever they go. The problem is that these individuals often appear to be victims of circumstance, making it easy for you to feel pity and try to help them. But in reality, they are the creators of their own misfortune, and by trying to save them, you only invite their disaster into your own life. The unlucky draw misfortune upon themselves, and they will eventually draw it upon you if you stay close enough to be affected. Power requires a positive and focused environment, and being surrounded by infectors will drain your energy and cloud your judgment. You must learn to recognize these types early: those who are always in a crisis, those who constantly complain, and those who bring drama into every room. Instead of trying to be a hero, you must ruthlessly cut them out of your circle to protect your own mental and emotional well-being. Associate only with those who are successful, happy and fortunate, because their good vibes and luck will rub off on you. If you surround yourself with winners, you will naturally begin to think and act like a winner, benefiting from their momentum. A person's character is like a climate. If you live in a cold and dark climate for too long, you will eventually freeze. There is no room for sentimentality in the pursuit of power when it comes to choosing your social and professional alliances. You are the average of the people you spend the most time with, so choose your circle with the precision of a surgeon. Do not let the infectors use your empathy as a hook to pull you down into their bottomless pit of problems. The wise man understands that happiness and success are habits that are cultivated by being in the right company. If you find someone who is consistently lucky, stay near them and observe their habits, for luck is often just another name for hidden strategy. Avoid the toxic influence of the miserable at all costs, for their ruin is contagious and will show no mercy to your ambitions. Your survival depends on your ability to walk away from those who are drowning, lest they pull you under with them. Seek the sun and the light of successful people, and your own power will grow in the warmth of their achievements. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. To maintain your independence and your power, you must make yourself so necessary that others cannot survive or succeed without you. The more people depend on you for their happiness, their prosperity, or their safety, the more freedom you have to act as you wish. If you are the only one who possesses a specific skill, a vital piece of information, or a unique connection, you hold the ultimate leverage. The goal is to weave yourself into the very fabric of their lives, so that removing you would cause their entire structure to collapse. Never teach your subordinates or your masters everything you know, because once they can do what you do, they will no longer need you. The moment someone feels they can replace you, your value drops to zero and your position becomes precarious. You must always keep a secret or a specialized talent in reserve that makes you the only solution to their most difficult problems. Being needed is a much stronger position than being loved, because love is fickle but necessity is a constant force. When people depend on you, they are forced to treat you with respect and caution, regardless of their personal feelings toward you. In the corporate world, this means becoming the person who understands the complex systems that no one else wants to touch. In social circles, it means being the person who has the keys to the most exclusive opportunities and networks. You want your master or your clients to feel a slight sense of fear at the thought of losing your services. This fear is your insurance policy against being discarded when times get tough or when a cheaper alternative appears. Do not strive to be liked by everyone. Strive to be the person that everyone is afraid to live without. Independence is a myth in a world of interconnected power. The only real freedom is being the one who holds the strings of dependency. If you are too easy to work with or too replaceable, you will eventually be treated like a commodity that can be traded away. Always stay one step ahead in your knowledge and your capabilities so that the gap between you and others remains wide. Let others do the minor tasks, but ensure that the final, most critical step always requires your personal intervention and approval. By creating this reliance, you transform yourself from a servant into an indispensable partner who dictates the terms of the relationship. Control the supply of what they need most, and you will forever control the person who needs it. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. One single honest move can cover 100 dishonest ones because it builds a wall of trust that blinds your opponent. Most people are suspicious by nature, but their defenses drop the moment they receive an unexpected gift or a seemingly sincere confession. By being honest about a small mistake or a minor flaw, you create a reputation for integrity that makes your larger lies believable. Generosity acts as a Trojan horse. It enters the heart of your enemy and softens them, making them feel indebted to you. When people feel they have been given something for free, they lose their critical thinking and become easy to manipulate. The goal is to distract the mind with a show of kindness so that you can move your real pieces into position without being noticed. Selective honesty works like a medicine that numbs the brain, allowing you to perform surgery on the situation as you wish. Once you have won someone's trust through a calculated act of giving, they will hand you the keys to their kingdom without hesitation. Never use this tactic too often, or it will lose its power and people will begin to see the pattern behind your kindness. It is most effective when used during the first meeting or when you are trying to break through a wall of cold hostility. A master of power knows that a small, well-timed sacrifice can lead to a massive gain in the long run. Use your generosity like a hook. The bait must be real and attractive enough for the fish to swallow the metal underneath. In the world of business, a small favor done for a rival can create an opening for a partnership that you intend to dominate. Most people are hungry for sincerity because it is so rare, and they will cling to anyone who appears to provide it. You are not being nice. You are being strategic by lowering the guard of those who would otherwise be your biggest obstacles. This is the art of the soft touch that allows you to bypass the ego and reach the person's core vulnerabilities. If you are always cold and calculating, people will avoid you, but if you are honestly flawed, they will embrace you. Control the perception of your character by feeding the world small doses of truth while keeping the big secrets locked away. Trust is a currency that you must manufacture through these small acts of selective honesty and staged generosity. When the victim feels safe, that is precisely the moment when you have the most power over their future. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. If you need to turn to an ally for help, do not remind them of your past kindness or the favors you have done for them. People are naturally selfish, and reminding them of their debts only makes them feel burdened, resentful, and eager to avoid you. Gratitude is a weak and short-lived emotion that disappears the moment a person feels they have paid back what they owe. Mercy is even worse, as it puts you in a position of a beggar and makes the other person feel superior and annoyed by your weakness. Instead, find something in your request that will benefit them directly and emphasize how they will gain from helping you. When you show a person that assisting you will lead to their own wealth, power, or fame, they will act with incredible speed. Self-interest is the most powerful engine in human nature, and once you fuel it, it can move mountains in your favor. You must study the person you are asking and find out what they desire most at that very moment. Frame your proposal so that your success is the bridge to their success, making it impossible for them to say no. They will help you not because they like you, but because they are helping themselves through the vehicle of your project. A person who helps you out of interest will be more loyal and hard-working than someone who helps you out of a sense of duty. Duty feels like a chore, but self-interest feels like an opportunity, and people are always hungry for opportunities. Do not waste time talking about your problems or your needs, because people generally do not care about anyone's problems but their own. Speak the language of what is in it for them, and you will find that doors that were locked for years suddenly swing open. This approach keeps your dignity intact because you are offering a deal rather than asking for a handout. It also ensures that the partnership remains professional and focused on results rather than emotions or past history. In every negotiation, the person who can clearly define the benefit for the other party is the one who leads the conversation. The wise man never relies on the goodness of others. He relies on their greed and their ambition to get what he wants. By aligning your goals with their greed, you create a force that is unstoppable and completely predictable. Never forget that the shortest path to a person's heart is through the logic of their own self-advancement. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Knowledge is the true currency of power, and to gain it you must learn to operate in the shadows of social interaction. By appearing to be a friendly and interested companion, you can encourage people to drop their guard and reveal their true intentions. A spy is not someone who wears a mask in the dark, but someone who wears a smile in the light while listening for every slip of the tongue. When you pose as a friend, you create a safe space where others feel comfortable sharing their secrets, their fears, and their future plans. You must master the art of the confessional by sharing a small, harmless secret of your own to trick the other person into sharing a much larger one. Every social gathering or meeting is an opportunity to gather intelligence on your rivals and your allies alike. Pay close attention to people's body language and the things they say when they think they are not being judged or analyzed. The information you gather in these casual moments will be the weapon you use to stay 3 steps ahead of everyone else. A master of power never stops observing, even when they are laughing or participating in a celebration. You should always be the one asking the questions that lead people to talk about themselves, while you keep your own cards close to your chest. By knowing the weaknesses and hidden motives of others, you can predict their moves and neutralize them before they become a threat. This is not about being a traitor. It is about being a realist who understands that information is the only way to ensure survival. If people know you are watching them, they will perform a role, but if they think you are a friend, they will show you their true self. Use this gathered intelligence to build a map of the power dynamics around you, identifying who is really in control and who is vulnerable. The more you know about someone, the easier it is to influence them or to destroy them if the need arises. Be careful never to let your spying become obvious, as a reputation for being a snake will alienate you from the circles you need to dominate. Always maintain a perfect balance between being a pleasant social figure and a cold, analytical observer of human behavior. The wise man knows that a person's secrets are the keys to their chains, and he works quietly to collect as many keys as possible. In any environment, the one who possesses the most information is the one who ultimately holds the strings of every outcome. Never take anything at face value, for the truth is always hidden beneath the layers of polite conversation and friendly gestures. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. If you leave a spark of a fire burning, no matter how small, it will eventually grow back and burn your entire house down. In the pursuit of power, mercy is a luxury that often leads to your own destruction because a defeated enemy only lives for revenge. If you only partially defeat an opponent, they will spend every waking moment recovering their strength and waiting for the right time to strike you. To be safe, you must eliminate your enemy's ability to fight back entirely, spiritually, financially, and socially. A total victory ensures that you do not have to look over your shoulder for the rest of your life, wondering when the retribution will come. Many great leaders failed because they felt pity at the last moment, allowing their rival to escape and return with a more powerful army. Crushing an enemy doesn't always mean physical violence. It means neutralizing their influence and their reputation so they can never rise again. You must be cold and clinical in your final move, setting aside all emotions to complete the task of total neutralization. An enemy who is forgiven will never truly love you. They will only hate themselves for being weak and hate you for being the witness to their shame. The only way to ensure peace is to remove the source of the conflict so completely that the memory of it begins to fade. When you go to war, you must have the stomach to finish what you started, or you should never have engaged in the first place. Half measures are the mark of an amateur who fears the weight of their own power and the judgment of others. The master knows that the world forgets the methods of a winner, but never forgives the mistakes of a loser. By destroying the possibility of a comeback, you send a clear message to all other potential rivals that your power is absolute. This ruthlessness creates a vacuum of fear that keeps others in line and prevents future rebellions before they can even be imagined. Do not let your moral compass lead you into a trap where you trade your future safety for a momentary feeling of goodness. If someone is a genuine threat to your goals, they must be removed from the equation with the precision of a surgeon. Power is a game of survival, and there is no room for those who allow their enemies to breathe and regroup. Crush the head of the snake and the rest of the body will wither away without a struggle. Finality is the ultimate form of protection in a world where everyone is waiting for a chance to take what you have built. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. In the economy of human emotion, scarcity creates value and abundance breeds contempt. If you are always present and always available, you become a common commodity that people take for granted. The more you are seen and heard from, the more ordinary you appear, and your influence begins to leak away. By withdrawing your presence at the right moment, you force people to realize what they are missing and increase your stature in their minds. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, but more importantly, it makes the mind imagine you as something greater than you actually are. You must learn when to vanish so that your return is treated like a major event rather than a routine occurrence. In any relationship or organization, the person who can walk away is always the one who holds the most power. If you stay too long, the mystery fades and your flaws become visible to everyone around you. But if you leave while you are at the height of your brilliance, you leave behind a legend that grows in your absence. This law applies to everything from social gatherings to the way you communicate in professional circles. Do not be the person who is the first to arrive and the last to leave. Be the one whose presence is a rare and valued gift. When you are not there, people talk about you, and their talk creates a reputation that you could never build by being present. Starve the world of your presence for a while, and you will find that they are much more willing to listen to you when you speak. Power is about controlling the supply of yourself so that the demand for your time and energy remains high. If you feel that you are being ignored or that your value is decreasing, it is time to pack your bags and disappear. Let them wonder where you are and what you are doing. The uncertainty will only increase your mysterious aura. History is full of leaders who lost their grip on the masses because they became too familiar and lost their divine status. Familiarity is the death of respect, while distance is the fuel for admiration and worship. Use absence as a strategic tool to test your importance. If they don't miss you, you never had power to begin with. If they do miss you, you will return with a renewed sense of authority that no constant presence could ever achieve. Law 17. Keep others in suspense. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Human beings are creatures of habit, with an insatiable need to see patterns in the behavior of others. When you are predictable, you give people a sense of control over you because they can calculate your next move with ease. To hold power, you must deliberately break these patterns and act in ways that defy logic and expectation. An unpredictable person is a terrifying person because they cannot be understood, managed, or countered. By changing your methods and your moods without warning, you keep everyone around you in a state of nervous suspense. They will spend all their energy trying to figure you out, leaving them with no strength to plan an attack against you. This unpredictability creates a psychological atmosphere where people become cautious and hesitant in your presence. You do not need to be chaotic. You simply need to be inconsistent in a way that serves your long-term goals. If you always react the same way to a provocation, your enemies will use that knowledge to lead you into a trap. But if your reaction is always different, they will eventually stop trying to provoke you altogether. In a world that loves labels and categories, the person who refuses to be categorized is the one who leads. Unpredictability also makes you the center of attention because people cannot stop watching a person who might do anything at any moment. It is the ultimate defense against those who try to pigeonhole you or limit your potential. Master the art of the sudden turn, the unexpected silence, or the abrupt change in strategy. This keeps your subordinates on their toes and your superiors worried about what you might do next. When you are a mystery, you are a threat, and when you are a threat, you are respected. The person who is easy to read is easy to defeat, but the person who is a riddle is a fortress that no one can enter. Use your unpredictability to distract your opponents while you quietly execute your real plans behind the scenes. Let the world guess and fail, for their failure is the foundation of your absolute control. By keeping others in suspense, you ensure that you are always the one dictating the pace and the direction of the game. Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. The world is a dangerous place and enemies are everywhere, but the worst mistake you can make is to withdraw into a fortress. While isolation may seem like it offers safety and a chance to think, it actually cuts you off from the very information you need to survive. In a state of isolation, you lose touch with the shifting moods of the people, the secret plans of your rivals, and the reality of the streets. A fortress becomes a prison that makes you a conspicuous target, allowing your enemies to surround you and block your every exit. Power depends on social interaction and being at the center of the whirlpool where all the information and influence flows. You must remain accessible and move through the world, even if it feels risky, because your visibility is your true protection. By staying in the crowd, you are harder to hit, and your enemies have to work much harder to find your specific vulnerabilities. When you are isolated, you become paranoid and your judgment becomes clouded because you have no one to test your ideas against. The greatest leaders in history were those who stayed close to their people and their soldiers, even when the threat of assassination was high. A fortress may protect your body, but it destroys your mind and your reputation by making you look fearful and weak. Instead of building walls of stone, you must build a network of people who act as your eyes and ears in every corner of society. True safety lies in being so well connected that any move against you is reported to you before it even begins. If you find yourself becoming too distant or too elite, you are inviting a rebellion that you will not see coming until it is at your door. The person who is always in the mix is the person who can spot an opportunity or a threat the moment it appears on the horizon. Do not let your fear of the world turn you into a hermit, because a hermit has no power and no future in the game of influence. Stay in the heat of the action, even if the fire is intense, for that is where the steel of your character is forged. Isolation breeds ignorance, and in the pursuit of power, ignorance is the quickest way to find yourself at the mercy of others. Be like a shadow that moves through every room, seen by many but captured by none, always aware of the changing tide. Your best defense is a wide and deep social circle that makes you indispensable and impossible to target in isolation. Remember that a king who hides in his castle is a king who is already beginning to lose his crown to the world outside. Law 19. Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. The world is full of different kinds of people, and you must never assume that everyone will react to your moves in the same way. Some people are wolves in sheep's clothing, and if you insult them or cross them, they will spend the rest of their lives seeking revenge. Before you act or speak, you must carefully analyze the person in front of you to understand their pride, their ego, and their capacity for harm. An unintended insult to a sensitive person can create a lifelong enemy who will strike you when you are most vulnerable and least expect it. There are those who appear weak but possess a hidden power or a dangerous connection that you cannot see on the surface. If you deceive or outmaneuver the wrong person, you may win a temporary victory but trigger a permanent war that you cannot afford. A master of power is a master of psychology. He knows that the ego is the most fragile and the most explosive part of a human being. Do not be reckless with your words or your actions, thinking that your current position makes you untouchable by the little people. History is littered with the corpses of powerful men who made a joke at the wrong person's expense and paid for it with their lives. Learn to distinguish between the person who will forgive and forget and the person who will harbor a grudge until the day they die. Never offend someone's deeply held beliefs or their sense of honor, as these are the things people are most willing to kill or die for. If you must move against someone, make sure you know exactly how far they are willing to go to get even with you. Some enemies are like a fire that can be put out, while others are like a slow poison that stays in your system for years. Be polite and cautious with everyone until you have fully measured their character and their potential for retaliation. Discretion and respect are not signs of weakness. They are tactical tools that prevent unnecessary conflicts and secret vendettas. A person who offends everyone indiscriminately is a fool who will eventually be crushed by the weight of their own accumulated enemies. Measure your opponent's depth before you jump into a conflict, because some waters are far deeper and darker than they appear. In every interaction, your goal is to achieve your objective without creating a ghost that will haunt your future path. The wise man treats every person with a calculated level of respect, knowing that today's nobody could be tomorrow's executioner. Understand the nature of the people around you, and you will find that the path to power is much smoother and free of hidden traps. Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. The person who rushes to take a side in a conflict loses their freedom and becomes a servant to someone else's cause. By refusing to commit your loyalty to any one person or group, you remain the master of everyone and the slave of none. When you stay independent, you create a sense of competition between the parties who are fighting for your support. This makes you the center of attention and gives you the power to dictate terms, because everyone wants to win you over. The moment you commit, the mystery and the desire for your favor disappear, and you become just another soldier in the ranks. You must be like a queen who allows many suitors to court her but never gives her hand to any of them, keeping them all in a state of hope and suspense. As long as you are uncommitted, you can play both sides against each other, gaining benefits from both while remaining safe from their mutual destruction. Do not let people pull you into their petty battles by appealing to your emotions or your sense of fairness. Your only commitment should be to yourself and your own long-term goals, using others as tools rather than masters. If one side begins to lose, you are free to walk away without being dragged down into their ruin. If the other side wins, you can negotiate from a position of strength because you never openly opposed them. Independence is a shield that protects you from the shifting tides of politics and the fickle nature of human alliances. The more people try to pull you into their circle, the more value your presence acquires, provided you stay just out of their reach. Maintain your distance and keep your true intentions hidden, so that no one can ever fully claim you as their own. Those who are quick to join a side are seen as easy and cheap, but those who stand alone are seen as formidable and elite. By staying neutral, you often become the mediator who holds the balance of power in every significant negotiation. Wait for the right moment to intervene, and only do so when it serves your interests and ensures your total dominance. Power lies in being the one who is sought after, not the one who is doing the seeking or the pledging of loyalty. Keep your options open at all times, for the world changes quickly, and today's ally can easily become tomorrow's liability. The wise man knows that the only path to true freedom is to never let anyone else hold the leash on his soul. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. No one likes to feel stupid, and if you make your victim feel smarter than you, they will never suspect that you have a hidden agenda. In the game of deception, appearing to be less intelligent or less experienced than you actually are is a brilliant tactical move. When people believe they are superior to you in wit or knowledge, they drop their guard and become incredibly arrogant. Their ego blinds them to the reality of what you are doing, allowing you to operate in plain sight without being noticed. By playing the sucker, you encourage your opponent to talk more, to show off, and to reveal the secrets of their own strategy. They will think they are leading you and manipulating you, while in reality, you are the one pulling the strings of their vanity. Most people are so desperate to prove their brilliance that they will fall for any trap that makes them look like a genius. You can use this to your advantage by asking for their expert advice or pretending to be confused by simple concepts. As they explain things to you with a patronizing smile, they are giving you the exact information you need to defeat them. This law is particularly effective against those who are genuinely intelligent but have a massive need for validation. Never show your full intellectual strength until the very end, when it is too late for the other person to react or recover. The person who is always trying to look smart is actually the one who is most vulnerable to being outmaneuvered. By appearing harmless and a bit slow, you become invisible to the predatory instincts of your rivals. They will focus their attention on more obvious threats, leaving you free to build your power in the shadows. Discretion is about controlling the perception of your brain power just as much as it is about controlling your actions. Let them laugh at your ignorance while you are quietly calculating the path to their total neutralization. In every interaction, evaluate the ego of the person across from you and feed it exactly what it wants to feel superior. When they are convinced of their own brilliance, they become the easiest targets in the world to manage and control. The wise man wears a mask of simplicity to hide a mind of extreme complexity and strategic depth. Remember that the best way to catch a bird is not to chase it, but to make the cage look like a place where it can feel safe and superior. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. When you are the weaker party, never fight for the sake of honor. Instead, choose to surrender. Surrendering gives you the time to recover, the time to torment your conqueror, and the time to wait for their power to fade. If you fight back when you are outmatched, you only give your enemy the satisfaction of crushing you completely and the glory of a decisive victory. By surrendering, you deny them that satisfaction and make them feel that they have won a hollow and easy battle. Surrender is a tactical disguise that hides your inward resentment and your secret plans for a future comeback. While your enemy thinks they have tamed you, you are actually observing them from the inside, learning their habits and identifying their flaws. You use their mercy as a shield to rebuild your strength in the shadows where they can no longer see you as a threat. Never sacrifice your long-term survival for a momentary act of bravery that will only lead to your permanent ruin. A master of power knows that yielding is often the most aggressive move one can make because it lures the opponent into a trap of complacency. By appearing to be defeated, you become invisible to the enemy's radar, allowing you to move freely within their circle. History is full of leaders who surrendered only to eventually take over the very empires that thought they had conquered them. In the modern world, this means knowing when to back down in an argument or a business deal so you can live to fight another day. Let the other person have the win on the surface, while you quietly secure the real assets and influence behind the scenes. Surrendering is not about being a coward. It is about being a strategist who values the final outcome more than the current image. Control your pride and your ego, for they are the chains that lead men to make foolish and suicidal stands. The person who can bend like a willow in the wind will survive the storm that breaks the rigid oak tree. Make your surrender a slow and calculated process that keeps the enemy occupied with managing you while you plot their downfall. By the time they realize you were never truly defeated, your roots will have already strangled their foundations. The wise man understands that power is a long game, and a temporary retreat is often the shortest path to a total victory. Wait for the tide to turn, for no empire stays at its peak forever, and your patience will be rewarded with their eventual collapse. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. Power is most effective when it is focused into a single, intense point of impact, rather than being spread thin over many areas. You must conserve your energies and your resources by concentrating them at their strongest point to achieve a decisive breakthrough. If you try to do everything and be everywhere, you will end up being nothing and having no real impact on the world. In the pursuit of power, find a single, fat cow that will give you milk for a long time rather than chasing 100 small targets. By focusing on one goal, one person or one industry, you become an expert and a dominant force that cannot be easily ignored. A concentrated mind is a dangerous weapon because it can see through the distractions that confuse everyone else. In warfare and in business, the side that focuses all its strength on the enemy's weakest point is the one that wins. Do not let your curiosity or your restlessness lead you to start many projects that you can never finish. Total immersion in one area allows you to understand the deep secrets and the hidden levers of power that are invisible to the amateur. When you are concentrated, you create a sense of momentum and authority that draws others to your cause. People are attracted to those who have a clear and singular vision because it offers them a sense of direction and purpose. If you rely on many sources of power, you are vulnerable because if one fails, your entire structure begins to shake. But if you build one unshakable foundation, you can weather any storm and use it as a platform for further expansion. The scattered person is always busy but never powerful, always moving but never arriving at their destination. You must have the discipline to say no to good opportunities so that you can say yes to the one great opportunity. Concentration is the secret of the elite who understand that mastery in one field is worth more than mediocrity in many. Identify the person who holds the keys to your next level and focus all your efforts on winning their favor or neutralizing their influence. By narrowing your focus, you increase your efficiency and decrease the chances of making a critical mistake. The world remembers the person who did one thing better than anyone else, not the person who tried everything and mastered nothing. Hold your ground, focus your fire, and you will find that the walls of your opposition will crumble under the weight of your intensity. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. The world of power is like an old royal court where everyone is playing a sophisticated game of manners and hidden agendas. To survive and rise, you must master the art of the perfect courtier, which means being a master of diplomacy and social grace. A perfect courtier never speaks directly about their own brilliance, but allows others to discover it through their refined actions and subtle words. You must learn to flatter those above you without appearing like a servant, making your praise feel like a genuine observation of their greatness. The goal is to be the person that everyone wants to be around because you make them feel better about themselves while you quietly gain their trust. You must be a master of your emotions, never showing anger or frustration in public, as these are signs of a person who lacks self-control. In a courtly environment, your reputation is built on your ability to handle difficult people with a smile and a clever remark. Avoid the temptation to gossip or speak ill of your rivals directly. Instead, use subtle hints to cast doubt on their character while you remain clean. You must also learn to adapt your personality to suit the person you are dealing with, becoming a mirror that reflects their own values and desires. Being a courtier is about being invisible when necessary and spectacular when the moment calls for a display of your unique talents. Never be the bearer of bad news, as the master often associates the messenger with the message. Let someone else take that risk. Instead, always try to be the one who brings solutions, good news, or a refreshing perspective to a tense situation. Modesty is your best shield, as it disarms the envy of your peers while making your achievements seem even more impressive to your superiors. By mastering the social graces, you become a permanent fixture in the halls of power, making yourself indispensable to those who lead. The courtier knows that power is not just about raw strength, but about the subtle influence you exert over the hearts and minds of others. Every word you speak and every gesture you make should be calculated to enhance your standing without triggering the defenses of others. If you are too blunt or too honest, you will be seen as a threat or a nuisance and will be removed from the inner circle. But if you are graceful and tactful, you will find that doors open for you that stay locked for those who are merely hard-working. The world of power is a theater, and the perfect courtier is the actor who never misses a cue and always leaves the audience wanting more. Learn the unwritten rules of your environment and follow them with such perfection that you eventually become the one who writes the rules. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Do not accept the identity that society or your past has forced upon you. Instead, take control of your own image and recreate yourself. The person who allows others to define them is a prisoner of their expectations and will always be limited by their narrow vision. You must be the architect of your own character, choosing the traits, the style, and the mystery that will best serve your goals of power. By reinventing yourself, you become a theatrical figure who commands attention and respect wherever you go. Most people are predictable because they follow the same habits and roles for their entire lives, but a master of power is a shapeshifter. You should learn to change your appearance, your way of speaking, and even your history to suit the environment you wish to dominate. This process of recreation makes you more than just a human being. It turns you into a legend or a brand that people cannot ignore. Use the power of drama and spectacle to make your public appearances memorable and impactful, like a director controlling a grand movie. The more you control your own narrative, the less power others have to use your past against you or to box you into a corner. Recreating yourself requires a high level of self-awareness and the courage to discard parts of your personality that are no longer useful. Do not be afraid to be a bit artificial, as the world of power is built on appearances and the stories we tell about ourselves. If you find that your current identity is holding you back, shed it like a snake sheds its skin and emerge as someone entirely new and more powerful. A person who can reinvent themselves can survive any crisis because they are not tied down to a single way of being. This law gives you the freedom to explore different paths and to surprise your enemies with a version of yourself they have never seen. The most successful people in history were those who understood that the self is not a fixed thing, but a work of art in constant progress. Master the art of the grand entrance and the mysterious exit, ensuring that every interaction with you feels like a significant event. By being the creator of your own myth, you force the world to treat you according to the rules you have established for yourself. Never let your origins or your mistakes define your future. You have the power to write a new chapter whenever you choose. Control the spotlight and direct it toward the version of yourself that is most likely to win the admiration and fear of the world. The wise man knows that in the game of power, the most important character he will ever play is the one he creates for himself. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. You must always appear to be a model of civility and efficiency, never being directly associated with mistakes or dirty work. In the pursuit of power, you will inevitably have to perform unpleasant tasks, but you must never be the one seen holding the knife. Use cat's paws, subordinates or allies who do the dangerous or immoral work for you while you stay safely in the background. If a plan fails or a scandal breaks, you must have a scapegoat ready to take the fall and absorb all the blame. A master of power maintains an aura of perfection, making it seem as though they are never touched by the chaos or the corruption of the world. By keeping your hands clean, you preserve your reputation and ensure that people still feel comfortable and safe in your presence. Let others be the bearers of bad news or the executors of harsh punishments so that the resentment of the victims is directed at them, not you. This allows you to play the role of the fair leader or the innocent bystander while your objectives are still being achieved. If you are caught doing the dirty work yourself, you lose your mystery and your moral authority, becoming just another common criminal or bully. The art of using others to pull your chestnuts out of the fire is a fundamental skill of the elite throughout history. Always maintain a distance between yourself and the machinery of your schemes, so that no trail of evidence ever leads back to your door. The world wants to believe in heroes and clean leaders, and you must feed that desire by keeping your public image untainted. When you need to strike an enemy, do it through a third party or a set of circumstances that makes it look like an accident or a natural consequence. This strategy not only protects you from legal or social consequences, but also keeps your enemies guessing about who is really behind their downfall. A clean reputation is a shield that allows you to move through high society and professional circles without being questioned. Never let your ego tempt you into taking credit for a brilliant but dirty move, as the long-term cost to your name is far greater than the short-term pride. Discretion and the use of proxies are the hallmarks of a strategist who understands that true power is invisible and untouchable. By staying above the fray, you remain the calm center of the storm, watched by all but blamed by none. The wise man knows that his influence is tied to his purity of image, and he guards that image with absolute ruthlessness. Let the world see only the results of your brilliance, while the mess required to achieve them remains buried deep in the shadows. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. Human beings have an overwhelming desire to believe in something larger than themselves, and you can use this hunger to build a loyal following. To create a cult-like atmosphere, you must offer a simple but powerful message that promises a better future or a hidden truth. Keep your words vague and filled with grand promises, allowing your followers to fill in the blanks with their own hopes and dreams. Create a sense of us versus them, identifying an enemy or a problem that only you and your group can solve. You must present yourself as a figure of absolute confidence and mystery, someone who possesses a secret knowledge that others lack. The more ritual and spectacle you bring to your cause, the more people will feel they are part of something divine and exclusive. As the leader, you must stay slightly distant and unreachable, making your followers crave your approval and your presence. Logic and reason are the enemies of belief. You must appeal to people's emotions and their need for belonging and purpose. Once people are emotionally invested in your vision, they will stop questioning your methods and will follow you blindly into any battle. They will become your army, protecting you from criticism and spreading your message with a passion that no paid employee could ever match. The goal is to turn your followers into believers who see any attack on you as an attack on their own identity and their own salvation. In the world of business or social influence, this means building a brand that feels like a movement or a secret society. People want to be led, and they are looking for someone who has the boldness to tell them exactly what to think and how to feel. Use symbols, special language, and exclusive gatherings to deepen the bond between you and your followers. By creating this psychological dependency, you gain a level of power that is nearly impossible to destroy from the outside. Your followers will do the hard work of recruiting others and defending your reputation, giving you a massive advantage over your rivals. Be careful to never let the mask slip, for if they see you are just a regular human with flaws, the illusion will shatter instantly. The master of this law understands that the crowd is a powerful force that can be directed by anyone who knows how to play on their fantasies. The world is a lonely and confusing place for most people. Offer them a home in your shadow, and they will give you their lives. Never explain yourself too clearly, for mystery is the soil in which the seeds of worship and absolute loyalty grow. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. If you are unsure of a course of action, do not attempt it, for your doubts and hesitations will infect your execution. Timidity is dangerous because it leads to half measures and clumsy mistakes that your enemies will easily exploit. Boldness, on the other hand, strikes fear into the hearts of others and makes you appear more powerful than you actually are. Any mistakes you make through audacity are easily corrected with even more audacity, but a mistake made through fear is a permanent stain. The world loves the bold and ignores the timid because a bold person creates their own momentum and forces others to react to them. When you act with total confidence, you leave no room for people to question your authority or your right to lead. A bold move can often end a conflict before it begins, as your opponent may back down simply because they are overwhelmed by your nerve. In negotiations, the person who makes the most daring demands is often the one who walks away with the best deal. If you are small or weak, boldness is your only way to level the playing field and make the giants treat you with respect. Hesitation creates a gap that your rivals will fill with their own plans, but boldness closes that gap and keeps you in control of the clock. Most people are naturally cautious, so when they see someone acting without fear, they assume that person has a secret advantage or hidden strength. Use this psychological edge to push through obstacles that would stop a more careful person in their tracks. Even if you are trembling inside, you must maintain a mask of absolute fearlessness to ensure that your followers remain loyal. Boldness is a skill that can be practiced and developed until it becomes a natural part of your strategic arsenal. Do not confuse boldness with recklessness. A bold move is a calculated risk taken with the full intention of winning. The timid are forgotten by history, but the bold are remembered as the ones who had the courage to change the world. When you strike, strike hard and without apology, for the world has no mercy for those who apologize for their own power. Your energy should be focused entirely on the attack, leaving no strength for the what-ifs that destroy the spirit of a leader. Audacity is the shortest path to a reputation for greatness, as it suggests a divine confidence that others find intoxicating. Remember that the lion does not negotiate with the prey. It acts with a boldness that makes the outcome inevitable. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. The ending is everything in the game of power, and those who fail to plan for it will see their hard-earned success slip through their fingers. A brilliant beginning means nothing if you do not have a clear path to the final goal and a strategy for how to keep your gains. By planning all the way to the end, you will not be overwhelmed by circumstances or distracted by the many diversions that appear along the way. You must account for every possible obstacle, every potential betrayal, and every turn of fortune that could ruin your progress. When you see the end clearly, you can stay calm while others panic because you already know how to handle the crisis. Most people are short-sighted and get excited by early victories, losing their focus and allowing their enemies to regroup. The master of power is a long-term thinker who is willing to sacrifice a small win today to ensure a total victory tomorrow. Your plan must include the exit strategy, knowing exactly when to stop and how to consolidate your power once the battle is won. Many leaders have fallen because they did not know when to quit and ended up losing everything in an unnecessary and overextended war. The more detailed your vision of the future, the more you can manipulate the present to bring that vision to life. Do not leave anything to chance or to luck, for luck is a fickle ally that will abandon you at the worst possible moment. A complete plan gives you a sense of inevitability that intimidates your rivals and inspires your subordinates. When you move according to a deep and hidden logic, you appear to be a force of nature that cannot be stopped. Always be prepared for the aftermath of your success, ensuring that your new position is stable and defended from the start. If you only plan for the next step, you are merely reacting to the world, but if you plan for the end, you are creating the world. Think of the final scene of your victory and work backward from there, identifying every move required to reach that point. This level of foresight prevents you from making emotional decisions that feel good in the moment, but lead to a dead end. Power is a marathon, not a sprint, and only those who can see the finish line from the starting blocks will ever cross it. Control your greed and your ambition so that they do not push you past the point of safety and into the territory of ruin. The ending is the seal on your legacy. Make sure it is as perfect and as powerful as the vision that started the journey. Law 30. Make your achievements seem effortless. Your actions must appear natural and executed with ease, as if you have much more strength and skill in reserve. All the sweat, the long hours of practice, and the clever tricks you use to reach the top must be hidden from the world. When you show how hard you work, you reveal your limitations and make people realize that your success is human and replicable. But when you appear to succeed without effort, you create the aura of a genius or a god whose power is beyond common understanding. People are fascinated by what they cannot explain, and an effortless victory suggests that you possess a secret source of strength. If you reveal your methods, you give others the chance to use them against you or to find the flaws in your strategy. Keep your backstage labor secret and only show the world the finished, perfect performance of your brilliance. The more mysterious your process, the more intimidating your presence becomes to those who are struggling to keep up. In any professional setting, the person who finishes a difficult task with a smile and no signs of stress is the one who gets promoted. Do not brag about how much you suffered to get the job done. Instead, act as if it was the most natural thing in the world for you. Silence about your methods is a form of power that prevents others from stealing your techniques or predicting your next move. When you make things look easy, you discourage competition because others will feel they can never match your natural talent. This law requires immense self-discipline, as the ego always wants to tell the world about the hard work and the sacrifices made. But the master understands that the public only cares about the result, and a mysterious result is far more powerful than an explained one. By appearing effortless, you maintain a sense of grace and superiority that sets you apart from the exhausted masses. If you are asked how you did it, give a vague and humble answer that leaves the questioner even more confused and impressed. Control the perception of your energy so that people believe you are barely using a fraction of your total potential. The illusion of ease is the ultimate shield for your true strategies and the hard realities of your struggle for dominance. In the theater of power, the audience must never see the ropes and pulleys that move the scenery behind the stage. Be the magician who performs the trick with a flick of the wrist, leaving the crowd in a state of silent wonder. Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice, making them feel in control while they serve your purpose. By presenting a limited set of options that all lead to your desired outcome, you force your opponent to choose the path of their own defeat. People hate to feel coerced, but they love to feel that they are making their own independent decisions. You must master the art of framing the situation so that whatever they pick, you are the one who wins the most. If you give someone too much freedom, they will go their own way and you will lose your influence over them. But if you give them a choice between two evils or two benefits that you have selected, they will feel empowered and satisfied. In a negotiation, offer two proposals where the one you actually want looks slightly more attractive or logical than the other. They will choose your preferred option, thinking they have outsmarted you or found the better deal for themselves. This tactic is used by the most successful leaders to maintain the illusion of democracy while exercising absolute control. The goal is to narrow the field of possibility until the victim's free will is nothing more than a walk down a hallway you have built. By controlling the options, you also avoid the resentment that comes with forcing someone to do something against their will. They cannot blame you for the outcome because they were the ones who made the final choice in the end. You must be subtle and clever in how you present these choices, ensuring that the trap is hidden behind a mask of fairness. If they suspect that all options favor you, they will rebel and look for a third way out of the situation. Therefore, you must make one option seem like a daring risk and the other like a safe bet, depending on their personality. Know the psychology of your mark so you can tailor the choices to trigger their specific fears or their specific greeds. This law allows you to lead people exactly where you want them to go without ever having to pull on their leash. The master of options is the true master of the room, as they are the ones who define the reality in which everyone else operates. Always stay one step ahead by preparing the next set of choices before the first one has even been made. In the game of power, the person who sets the menu is the person who decides what everyone else is going to eat. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. The truth is often cold, harsh, and unpleasant, which is why most people spend their lives trying to avoid it at all costs. If you want to gain power over the masses, you must never appeal to their reason or the bitter reality of their situation. Instead, you must tap into their deepest fantasies and offer them a dream that is more colorful and exciting than their daily lives. People are hungry for a magic pill or a sudden change in fortune that will solve all their problems without any hard work. If you can present yourself as the source of this fantasy, they will flock to you like thirsty travelers to an oasis in the desert. History is full of charlatans and visionaries who gained absolute loyalty by promising things they could never truly deliver. The key is to keep your promises grand and vague, so that the fantasy remains intact even when the results are slow to arrive. Never be the one to break the illusion, for the person who brings the cold water of reality is hated more than any enemy. The crowd does not want the truth. They want to be entertained and given a reason to hope for something impossible. In your business or your personal brand, create a narrative of transformation that makes people feel they are part of a miracle. Use the power of storytelling to paint a picture of a world where all their fears disappear and their desires are fulfilled. Those who can manufacture hope in a hopeless world are the ones who ultimately hold the keys to the kingdom. The wise man understands that people would rather believe a beautiful lie than face a boring or painful truth. By playing to these fantasies, you bypass their critical thinking and speak directly to their emotional and spiritual needs. This creates a bond of loyalty that is much stronger than any contract or professional obligation could ever be. Be the storyteller, the dreamer, and the provider of illusions, and the world will follow you wherever you lead. However, you must stay grounded in reality yourself, so that you can manage the consequences of the dreams you sell. Power belongs to those who can see the world as it is, but describe it as people wish it to be. Never underestimate the power of a shared myth to unite a group of people behind a single dominant leader. In the marketplace of influence, the person with the most attractive fantasy is always the one who makes the most sales. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Every human being has a weakness, a gap in their psychological armor, or a secret insecurity that controls their behavior. This thumbscrew is the hidden lever you must find if you want to manipulate someone without them ever realizing it. Most people try to hide their vulnerabilities behind a mask of strength, but their true nature always leaks out in small moments. To find the thumbscrew, you must observe people when they are emotional, tired, or caught off guard by an unexpected event. Look for their childhood wounds, their secret vanities, or the things they are most afraid of losing in this world. Once you identify this weakness, you can use it to push them in any direction you desire, like a puppet on a string. Some people are driven by a need for approval, while others are consumed by a hidden greed or a lust for power. If you feed their specific hunger, they will become your willing servants, doing anything to get more of what you offer. You must be a master of listening and watching, paying attention to the things people mention most often in casual conversation. A person's hobbies, their choice of friends, and even their nervous habits are all clues to their internal architecture. Once you have your finger on their thumbscrew, do not use it immediately. Save it for the moment when you need it most. The threat of exposing a weakness or withholding a needed validation is often more powerful than the act itself. This law requires a cold and analytical mind that views people as machines with specific buttons and switches. Never let your own emotions get in the way of your observation, for your own bias will blind you to their true vulnerability. Use their insecurity to make them dependent on you, ensuring that you are the only one who can make them feel safe or successful. The person who knows what others fear most is the person who ultimately controls their every decision. Do not judge people for their weaknesses. Simply use them as the tools they are to achieve your long-term objectives. Knowledge of a person's inner demons gives you a level of leverage that no amount of money or status can buy. Be subtle in your approach, for if they realize you are looking for their screw, they will build a wall you cannot climb. In the architecture of power, the thumbscrew is the master key that opens every door and silences every opposition. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. The way you carry yourself often determines how the world perceives and treats you in return. If you appear humble, hesitant, or overly apologetic, people will treat you as a subordinate and overlook your potential. But if you act with a sense of royalty and absolute confidence, you radiate an aura that makes people believe you are destined for greatness. A king does not ask for permission to rule. He carries himself as if his authority is a natural fact that no one can question. You must discard the habits of the common person and adopt a style that is dignified, calm, and slightly detached from the crowd. When you treat yourself as a person of high value, you set the standard for how everyone else must approach and respect you. By acting like a king, you project a self-belief that is so strong it becomes infectious to those around you. People are naturally drawn to leaders who look like they know exactly where they are going and why they deserve to be there. Your appearance, your speech, and your posture should all reflect a person who is comfortable with power and responsibility. Avoid the trap of being too relatable or too friendly, as familiarity often leads to a decrease in the respect people have for you. Maintain a certain distance and a level of mystery that suggests you are operating on a higher plane of existence. In professional circles, the person who demands the most respect is usually the one who gets it, simply because they don't accept anything less. This law is about psychological framing. You are teaching the world how to value you by the way you value yourself. If you act as if you belong at the top, others will naturally move out of your way to make room for your ascent. Confidence is not about being loud. It is about the quiet certainty that your presence is a significant event in any room. Dress with intention, speak with authority, and never let anyone see you doubt your own right to lead. The world accepts the version of yourself that you present, so make sure that version is powerful and beyond reproach. True royalty is not about a crown, but about a state of mind that refuses to accept anything less than total dominance. By acting like a king, you create a reality where others feel compelled to serve your vision and honor your name. Remember that a person who respects themselves as a sovereign is far more dangerous than one who waits for a title. Law 35. Master the art of timing. Timing is everything in the pursuit of power, and a move made a moment too soon or too late can lead to total disaster. You must never appear to be in a hurry, because being in a hurry signals a lack of control over your time and your destiny. Always seem patient, as if you know that everything will eventually come to you if you simply wait for the right alignment of stars. To master timing, you must learn to stand back and observe the shifting tides of the world with a calm and analytical eye. Identify the spirit of the times so that you can move with the current rather than fighting against it fruitlessly. There are moments to wait and gather strength, and there are moments to strike with the speed and force of a lightning bolt. If you strike too early, you expose your plans before they are ready. If you wait too long, the opportunity vanishes forever. The master of power is a historian of the present, understanding how the past patterns are repeating in today's events. You must cultivate the ability to sense when your enemies are weak and when the public is ready for a change in leadership. Sometimes the best strategy is to do nothing and let your opponents wear themselves out with their own impatient mistakes. Control your internal clock so that you are never pushed by emotion or external pressure into making a premature decision. Patience is a weapon that allows you to outlast your rivals and arrive at the finish line fresh and ready for the final win. When the moment of opportunity arrives, you must be prepared to abandon your patience and act with absolute decisiveness. The world is a series of waves, and your job is to know which wave to ride and when to jump off before it crashes. If you can control your own timing, you can control the timing of others, forcing them to react to your pace and your schedule. Never let the world see you panic or rush, for the person who is never in a hurry is the person who is truly in charge. Watch for the signs of decay in the old systems, and be ready to step into the vacuum the moment the structure collapses. Time is a tool that can either sharpen your blade or rust your armor. The choice depends on your ability to wait. Master the seasons of your own life and your own career, knowing when to plant the seeds and when to harvest the power. In the final analysis, the person who owns the clock is the person who owns the outcome of every human interaction. Law 36. Disdain. Things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge. By acknowledging a petty problem or a minor enemy, you give them existence and credibility. The more attention you pay to an opponent, the stronger you make them, and often you end up looking as small as the problem itself. If there is something you want but cannot have, the most powerful move is to show absolute contempt and act as if you never wanted it. When you ignore something, you place yourself above it, signaling to the world that it is beneath your notice or your energy. Trying to fix a small mistake often makes it worse and draws more eyes to your failure than the original error ever would. Contempt is the ultimate weapon of the superior mind. It freezes the enemy in their tracks because they cannot get a reaction from you. If you are attacked by a person of lower status, do not defend yourself, because defending yourself levels the field between you. By staying silent and moving forward, you make the attacker look like a desperate child screaming at a mountain. You must master your own desire and your own anger so that you do not become a slave to things that are out of your reach. If an opportunity passes you by, do not complain or show regret. Instead, speak of how it was never worthy of your time. This air of indifference makes you appear incredibly powerful and self-sufficient, as if your happiness depends on no one but yourself. The world is full of distractions that try to pull you into useless conflicts and emotional traps. The wise man knows that his energy is his most valuable currency, and he refuses to spend it on anything that does not offer a massive return. By ignoring the insults and the obstacles of the little people, you maintain your dignity and your focus on the grand goal. Let others burn themselves out trying to get your attention while you stay cool, distant, and unreachable. If a rival tries to provoke you, your lack of response will drive them into a state of madness and insecurity. They will start to wonder why they don't matter to you, and in that wondering, their power over you completely vanishes. Be the master of your own attention, for whatever you look at, you feed with your own life force. Learn the art of the cold shoulder, and you will find that many of your problems simply disappear for lack of fuel. In the end, the person who can walk away without looking back is the one who truly owns the situation. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. Striking imagery and grand symbolic gestures create an aura of power that everyone responds to because it bypasses the brain and hits the heart. In a world that is often dull and boring, people are desperate for something spectacular that captures their imagination. You must learn to stage events and appearances that are visually overwhelming, using light, color, and drama to tell your story. A well-designed spectacle can hide 1,000 flaws and make a weak argument look like a divine truth. Never rely on words alone to convince people. Instead, give them a show that they will remember for the rest of their lives. The symbols you use should be simple and powerful, carrying a meaning that everyone can understand without explanation. By creating these grand moments, you position yourself as a figure of authority and a leader of a movement, rather than just an individual. Think of the great leaders of history. They were all masters of the theater, using costumes, parades, and ceremonies to reinforce their status. A spectacle creates a sense of unity among your followers and a sense of awe and fear among your enemies. Even in a modern professional setting, the way you present a project or a speech can be a form of calculated theater. Use the power of surprise and the unexpected to keep the audience focused entirely on you and your message. The crowd is always drawn to the biggest and brightest thing in the room, so make sure that thing is you. When you control the visual environment, you control the emotional state of everyone within that environment. Do not be afraid of being too much, as the world of power has no room for the shy or the understated. A dramatic entrance or a perfectly timed symbolic act can win a battle that 1,000 logical arguments would lose. People do not want to be lectured, they want to be moved, and imagery is the shortest path to the human soul. Master the art of the visual hook that stays in the mind long after the event has ended. By turning your life into a series of compelling scenes, you make your ascent to power look like a work of destiny. The wise man knows that the eye is the gateway to the mind, and he guards that gateway with a show of absolute brilliance. In the game of influence, the person who provides the best entertainment is the person who gets to lead the parade. Law 38. Think as you like but behave like others. If you make a show of going against the times and flaunting your unconventional ideas, people will think that you only want attention. They will feel that you are looking down on them, and they will find ways to punish you for making them feel inferior. It is far safer to blend in and nurture the common touch, keeping your dangerous or revolutionary thoughts to yourself. Share your true ideas only with tolerant friends and those who are sure to appreciate your uniqueness and your vision. By appearing to share the same values as those around you, you gain their trust and move among them without suspicion. A master of power is a chameleon who knows that honesty is a luxury that can often lead to unnecessary isolation. You do not have to believe in the nonsense of the crowd, but you must learn to speak their language and follow their rituals. This social mask protects your inner freedom and allows you to work on your real plans without being interrupted by the offended. When you are in Rome, you must act like a Roman, even if your heart belongs to a different empire entirely. People are naturally threatened by those who are different because it forces them to question their own way of life. Save your energy for the big battles and do not waste it by arguing over minor cultural or social traditions. By blending in, you become invisible to the eyes of the moral police and the defenders of the status quo. The wise man understands that true power is internal, and he does not need the validation of the public for his ideas. Control your tongue and your facial expressions so that no one can guess the depth of your disagreement. This calculated conformity gives you the freedom to observe everyone while you remain a mystery to them. If you must introduce a new idea, do it slowly and wrap it in the clothing of tradition so it is easier for people to swallow. Never underestimate the resentment of the average person toward the intellectual or the social rebel. Play the game of the masses on the surface while you build your own private kingdom in the silence of your mind. The goal is to be a part of the world without being owned by it, maintaining your secret edge at all times. Discretion is the ultimate form of self-preservation in a world that fears anything it cannot understand. Law 39: stir up waters to catch fish. Anger and emotion are strategically unproductive. You must always stay calm and objective while your enemies lose their balance. If you can make your enemies angry while you stay cool, you gain a massive advantage over their clouded judgment. Stir up their insecurity and their pride until they make a reckless move that you can easily exploit for your own gain. An emotional opponent is a predictable opponent because their reactions are driven by their temper rather than their logic. By stirring the waters, you force hidden threats and secret plans to rise to the surface where you can see them clearly. You can use a small provocation or a well-placed rumor to trigger a reaction that reveals your enemy's true hand. Once the water is muddy and everyone is confused, you are the only one who can see the path through the chaos. Do not let your own ego get involved in the conflict. Treat it like a game of chess where emotions are only distractions. If someone is naturally quick to anger, you have already found the handle to control them for the rest of your life. Patience is the key to this law. You must wait for the right moment to throw the stone that creates the most ripples. When the environment becomes unstable, people look for someone who is calm and steady to lead them through the storm. By being the source of the chaos and the source of the calm simultaneously, you become indispensable to everyone involved. Avoid the temptation to join the shouting match. Instead, watch and listen as the others destroy their own reputations. The person who can control their pulse while others are screaming is the person who will walk away with the prize. Use the anger of others as a tool to distract them from your real objectives and your hidden vulnerabilities. Muddy the waters so that no one can see the trap you have set until it is too late for them to escape it. In any negotiation, the first person to get angry is the one who has already admitted they have no other way to win. Keep your face like a mask and your heart like ice, allowing the heat of the world to work in your favor. The master of conflict knows how to start a fire and how to use the smoke to hide his own movements. Control the temperature of the room, and you will control every living soul that breathes the air inside it. Law 40: despise the free lunch. What is offered for free is often the most dangerous and expensive trap you can encounter in the world of power. A free gift usually comes with a hidden psychological price, whether it is a sense of obligation, a hidden agenda, or a compromise of your independence. By paying the full price, you keep your hands clean and remain free from the debts that others will eventually try to collect. There is a specific kind of power in being the person who pays their way, as it signals self-sufficiency and absolute control over your resources. Those who are always looking for a bargain or a handout are seen as weak and desperate, making them easy targets for manipulation. In the pursuit of power, money is a tool to be used, not a hoard to be protected at the cost of your reputation. Use your wealth generously to create an aura of greatness and to buy the loyalty of those who are motivated by gain. Being lavish at the right moment can disarm your enemies and make your allies feel that they are part of a winning team. Strategic spending is an investment in your influence, whereas stinginess makes you look small-minded and fearful of the future. Never let a free favor become a chain around your neck that prevents you from making the best move for your own survival. The wise man understands that anything of true value must be earned or paid for to ensure it truly belongs to him. Avoid the bargain hunters and the freeloaders, for they will drain your energy and offer nothing but resentment in return. By paying your own way, you establish a standard of excellence that forces others to treat you with a higher level of respect. The free lunch is a hook designed to pull you into someone else's ocean. Stay on your own shore by being your own provider. Control your greed for the easy path, because the easy path is almost always a dead end disguised as a shortcut. A master of power is never a beggar. He is the one who distributes the wealth and sets the terms of every transaction. Let others scramble for the scraps while you focus on building a kingdom that owes nothing to anyone. Money is meant to circulate and create movement, and the person who knows how to spend it wisely is the person who attracts more of it. Integrity in your dealings, paying what is owed, is a shield that protects you from the gossip and the legal traps of your rivals. In the end, the only things you truly own are the things you have paid for with your own sweat, your own mind, or your own coin. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. If you succeed a legendary leader or have a famous parent, you will find yourself living in a shadow that is nearly impossible to escape. The world will constantly compare you to the giant who came before you, and no matter how well you do, it will never seem like enough. To establish your own power, you must create your own path and find a way to shine a light that is entirely your own. You cannot win by simply repeating the same strategies and habits of your predecessor. You must reinvent the role to suit your personality. Often, the best move is to publicly break away from the past and show that a new era has begun with your arrival. Destroy the old legacy if necessary, for as long as it exists, you will be seen as a mere caretaker of someone else's achievements. People are naturally nostalgic for the past, and you must give them something even more exciting and fresh to focus on in the present. Do not be afraid to change the symbols, the language, and the methods of the organization to reflect your unique vision. If you stay in the old shoes, you will always walk with a limp because they were never designed for your feet. A master of power knows that first is a much stronger position than second, so you must find a way to be the first in a new category. By creating a contrast between the old way and your new way, you force the world to judge you on your own merits. This law requires the courage to be different and the brilliance to prove that your difference is an improvement. Do not let the ghost of the past haunt your meetings or dictate your decisions. Bury the ghost and take the throne with your own hands. The more successful the person before you was, the more radical your change must be to get noticed and respected. Those who try to be the next version of someone else always end up as a footnote in history, forgotten and irrelevant. Be the original version of yourself, and the world will eventually stop looking back and start following you forward. The shadow of a giant is a cold place where nothing grows. Move into the sun and build your own monument from scratch. Your identity must be unshakable and independent of anyone else's name or reputation. History only remembers those who had the audacity to clear their own forest and build their own city. Control the narrative of your rise by making it clear that the past was just a prologue to the greatness you are now providing. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Trouble can often be traced back to a single strong individual, the agitator, the arrogant sub-leader, or the source of the poison. If you allow such people room to operate, they will infect the rest of the group and create a rebellion that is hard to stop. Do not waste your time trying to negotiate with the followers or trying to win over every single member of the opposition. Instead, identify the shepherd, the person who provides the energy and the direction for the group, and neutralize them. When the leader is removed, the followers lose their sense of purpose and their courage, becoming easy to manage or disperse. Often, the mere absence of the key figure is enough to make the entire structure of the opposition collapse into chaos. You must be surgical in your approach, isolating the leader from their support base before you deliver the final blow. By striking the shepherd, you send a powerful message of dominance that scares away any other potential challengers. This law is about efficiency. You are cutting the head off the snake rather than trying to crush every inch of its body. In a professional setting, this might mean identifying the one person who is spreading negativity and removing them from the team. Once the source of the infection is gone, the rest of the group will naturally return to a state of balance and cooperation. Do not wait for the trouble to grow. Act while the shepherd is still visible and the sheep are still waiting for orders. Isolation is the best way to weaken a leader. Cut off their communication, their resources, and their access to the crowd. When a group sees their leader fall or retreat, their faith is shattered, and they will look for a new center of gravity. You should be ready to step into that vacuum and provide the direction that they are now desperately seeking. A master of power does not get bogged down in petty fights with everyone. He stays focused on the source of the conflict. Neutralizing the shepherd can be done through a loss of reputation, a transfer of power, or a total social exclusion. The goal is to make the followers feel abandoned and powerless, so that they have no choice but to surrender to your will. In every conflict, look for the center and strike it with everything you have to end the battle quickly and decisively. The wise man knows that 100 soldiers are nothing without a general, so he saves his best moves for the general. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. To maintain long-term power, you cannot rely on force or coercion alone, as these methods eventually create a rebellion that will destroy you. You must learn to lead people by winning their hearts and minds, making them want to follow you because they feel an emotional connection to your cause. Coercion is a short-term tool that creates secret enemies, but seduction is a permanent bond that turns people into loyal subjects. You must understand the psychology of the individuals you are dealing with, identifying their hidden desires and their deepest fears. By playing on these emotions, you can lead them in any direction you want, while they believe they are following their own will. A master of power is a master of persuasion, using words and gestures to make others feel seen, understood, and valued. If you treat people like machines or tools, they will eventually break or turn against you at the first sign of your weakness. But if you work on their hearts, they will stay with you even when the situation is difficult and the rewards are small. The mind is the gateway to action. So you must fill the minds of your followers with a vision that makes them feel noble and important. Soften people up with kindness and interest before you ask them for anything, so that their natural defense is already down. An individual who feels emotionally invested in your success will work 10 times harder than someone who is just working for a paycheck. Never ignore the emotional state of those around you, as a frustrated heart is the breeding ground for a future traitor. Learn the art of the gentle touch, where you guide people through suggestion and inspiration rather than direct orders. When people love or admire you, they will overlook your mistakes and defend your reputation with their own lives. In any negotiation, the person who can make the other party feel good about the deal is the one who truly owns the outcome. Power is not just about what you can take from people, it is about what you can make them give you willingly. Be the source of their hope and the answer to their insecurities, and you will find that you never have to use force again. The wise man knows that a loyal heart is the strongest fortress any leader can ever possess in an uncertain world. Keep your followers emotionally satisfied, and they will become the unshakable foundation of your rising empire. Control the narrative that people tell about themselves in relation to you, and you will control their entire future. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. The mirror reflects reality, but it is also the perfect tool for deception, allowing you to neutralize your enemies by mimicking their every move. When you mirror your opponents doing exactly what they do, they cannot figure out your strategy because they are only seeing their own reflection. The mirror effect mocks and humiliates your enemies, making them overreact and lose their balance out of sheer frustration. By echoing their behavior, you make them feel that you understand them perfectly, which creates a false sense of security or a deep psychological discomfort. If someone is aggressive toward you, mirroring their aggression back to them can make them realize how ridiculous or dangerous they are being. In a social or professional setting, mirroring someone's body language and speech patterns creates an instant but artificial sense of rapport. They will feel a strange connection to you, making it easier for you to lead them into a trap or win their favor. The mirror also hides your true personality, allowing you to stay invisible behind the image of the person you are reflecting. When you hold up a mirror to someone's flaws, you force them to face their own ugliness without you ever having to say a single word. This tactic is particularly effective against people who are arrogant or those who think they are unique and unpredictable. By showing them that they are predictable enough to be mirrored, you destroy their ego and their confidence in their own power. You can also use the mirror to teach a lesson, reflecting someone's bad behavior back at them until they are forced to change. It is a psychological game that creates a sense of double vision in the opponent, leaving them unable to tell where they end and you begin. The mirror is a shield that protects you from direct attacks because the attacker feels they are striking themselves. Use this law to blend into new environments, adopting the habits of the locals until you have gathered enough strength to dominate. A master of the mirror is never caught off guard because he is always one step ahead in the dance of imitation. People are fascinated by themselves, so by giving them a reflection, you capture their attention and their energy effortlessly. Control the mirror, and you will control the perception of everyone who looks into it, including your greatest rivals. It is a cold and clinical way to dismantle an opponent's defense while staying completely safe and composed. Let the world see its own reflection in your actions and use that distraction to execute your real plans in the dark. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Everyone understands the need for change in theory, but on a psychological level, human beings are creatures of habit who fear the unknown. If you introduce too many changes too quickly, you will create a state of panic and resentment that will lead to a rebellion against your authority. To successfully reform an organization or a society, you must make the new changes look like an improvement on an old tradition. Speak the language of the past while you quietly build the future, ensuring that people feel a sense of continuity and safety. Even if you are making a radical shift, you must find a way to connect it to a historical precedent or a long-lost value. The new must be wrapped in the clothing of the familiar, to be swallowed by the masses without a struggle. Change is like a powerful medicine. If given in one massive dose, it becomes a poison, but in small doses it heals and strengthens. A master of power is patient, introducing one small reform at a time and waiting for the group to adapt before moving to the next. By honoring the symbols and the rituals of the past, you win the trust of the traditionalists while you implement your own agenda. Never openly disrespect the history of the group you are leading, for that history is the foundation of their identity. If you destroy the foundation too quickly, the entire structure will fall on your head before you can build a new one. Use the phrase returning to the roots or restoring the original vision to justify your most revolutionary ideas. This creates a sense of comfort and prevents the fear that usually accompanies a departure from the status quo. People will accept a new reality if they believe it is just a better version of the old reality they already know. Control the pace of the transformation so that you are always the one managing the transition rather than being overwhelmed by it. Innovation is most successful when it is disguised as a restoration of something that people already respect. Be a visionary in your mind, but a traditionalist in your public behavior to avoid the unnecessary friction of resistance. The wise man knows that time is his greatest ally in changing the minds of the people, and he never rushes the process. Let the old guard feel that their world is still intact, while you are actually replacing every brick of the building from the inside. Power is maintained through the balance of moving forward without losing the support of those who are afraid of the dark. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Appearing better than others is always dangerous, but most dangerous of all is to appear to have no faults or weaknesses. Envy creates silent enemies who will smile at you while they plot your downfall in the shadows of their own insecurity. It is a smart strategy to occasionally display a few harmless flaws or admit to a minor vice to humanize your image. By showing that you are human, you disarm the resentment of those who are struggling and make your success seem less offensive. Only gods and the dead can afford to be perfect. For the living, a perfect reputation is a heavy target that invites 1,000 arrows. When you achieve great things, you should attribute some of your success to luck or timing rather than just your own brilliance. This makes your rivals feel that they could have achieved the same thing if the stars had aligned for them, reducing their jealousy. Envy is a slow-growing poison that can destroy you when you are most vulnerable, so you must neutralize it early and often. The more powerful you become, the more you must master the art of being approachable and vulnerable in small, controlled ways. Let others feel superior to you in minor matters, so that they will allow you to be superior in the matters that truly count. A master of power never brags about his wealth or his happiness, as these are the two things people find most difficult to forgive. By appearing to have a cross to bear or a struggle to overcome, you win the sympathy of the masses and the protection of the public. Do not let your ego push you into a display of absolute perfection, for that is the quickest way to isolate yourself from the world. Discretion and humility are the shields that protect the high achiever from the daggers of the mediocre. The wise man knows that his brilliance is a threat, and he carefully masks it with a touch of ordinary humanity. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. The moment of victory is often the moment of greatest peril because the heat of success can push you into a state of arrogance and overconfidence. If you go too far, you create more enemies than you can handle and risk losing everything you have just fought to gain. A master of power sets a clear goal and, once that goal is reached, has the discipline to stop and consolidate his position. In the excitement of winning, it is easy to become greedy and try to push for just one more gain, but this is a trap of the ego. By stopping at the right time, you maintain your control and your dignity, leaving the world wanting more rather than seeing you fail. The person who overextends themselves becomes thin and vulnerable, making them an easy target for a fresh and hungry rival. Victory should be treated as a plateau where you rest and rebuild your strength before planning your next strategic move. Do not let your momentum carry you into a territory you are not prepared to defend or a conflict you did not plan for. History is full of conquerors who lost their empires because they didn't know when to put down the sword and pick up the pen. Every victory creates a new set of circumstances and a new set of threats that you must analyze with a cold and sober mind. The mark you aim for is your safety zone. Going past it is stepping into the unknown where luck plays a larger role than strategy. Control your ambition so that it serves you, rather than you serving a blind and endless hunger for more. There is a specific beauty and power in a clean, decisive ending that leaves no room for a messy aftermath. The wise man understands that a sustainable victory is better than a massive but unstable conquest. Take your prize, secure your borders, and let the dust settle before you even think about the next horizon.